Cummings, and welcome to yet another edition of the Citizens Community Forum. It's another Wednesday in Trinidad and Tobago, another Wednesday, today being March the 27th in the year 2024. This evening we'll have our telephone lines open as per usual. This is a public platform. You're free to call us during this hour. Our numbers are 622-1981 or 628-1981, and our WhatsApp message board at 675-1981. And I will be happy to take your calls. And our topic this evening, what's our topic this evening? Focus on and assessing the political climate in Trinidad and Tobago. But before we get into our subject matter this evening, our objective is always to have an engaging, interactive, and a civil discourse, and in so doing, help develop a culture of peace and understanding through constructive dialogue and, yes, citizens' participation. Discussions at times may be emotionally charged, but surely we can always find common ground, if only to learn from each other. Even as a caller to the program, we ask you, as a contributor to the discussion, to allow grace to prevail in respect of the views and or comments of others. But generally, views expressed may not necessarily be that of the station, host, or its affiliate partners. The opinions shared are strictly those of the individual speakers and or guests, and we do encourage you to critically evaluate the discussion as you yourself form your own perspective. But overall, we are better people with diverse voices, views, opinions, and respectful dialogue. Before we delve into the program this evening, we just want to take a quick look at the weather. What has the weather been like in terms of, while we focus on Trinidad and Tobago, for the upcoming and current period tonight and tomorrow, Trinidad and Tobago and the rest of the Lesser Antilles. Tonight, anticipate a mostly clear and pleasantly cool night, although there may be some scattered showers in the northern windwards. Tomorrow, expect predominantly hot and sunny weather with the possibility of isolated afternoon showers. The night will remain fair and cool. Sea conditions, will be slight to moderate, with the waves ranging from 1 to 1.0 meters to 1.5 meters in open waters and up to 2.0 in the leewards. And in sheltered areas, waves will be below 1.0 meters. And as we look at the temperature at Piaco, maximum temperature today at Piaco 34.2, Crown Point, Tobago 31.5. Minimum temperature forecast tonight at Piaco 22 degrees Celsius, and Crown Point 24 degrees Celsius. And that's a quick look at the weather. This is the Citizens Community Forum. I'm Stephen Cummings, and we are back again with another interesting topic. According to the Constitution and the laws of Trinidad and Tobago, a general election must be called within the next 15 months, and for many, the campaign has already begun. But as citizens, we must examine the political landscape, which consists of an unending web of ideologies, policies, and power dynamics shaping the nation's governance structure. And there are several questions. One being, just how all of this is really helping the ordinary citizen of Trinidad and Tobago. One thing for sure is that we must engage the subject matter, if only to be better informed of who we are as a people. Well, this evening on the Citizens Community Forum, our topic, our focus on and assessing the political climate in Trinidad and Tobago. And there are several questions. One, as I said, how would you assess the political climate in Trinidad and Tobago at this time? Are we a better people when we are, better educated politically? What are the current key political parties in Trinidad and Tobago, and what are their main ideologies and platforms? Well, we will talk about those and lots more as we continue the program this evening. We're going up until 9 o'clock, and of course our telephone lines will remain open, so if you feel the need to connect with us, you can do so. Our numbers are 622-1981 and 628-1981. This evening, again, we have a special guest in studio, and I'd want to just welcome her for yet another time. she's no stranger to Trinidad and Tobago. I have in studio live Ms. Marsha Walker, former temporary opposition senator, who will help us discuss some of these issues. Marsha, good evening and welcome again.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for having me again.
It's a pleasure to have you in on yet another time on the Citizens Community Forum. And of course, we have a very important subject matter we want to discuss, this evening. We are certainly into, that
Silly season.
Yes, that climate where, as I said, the campaigns have already begun. Whether we believe it or not, the parties, they are on the ground, be it the incumbent or the opposition, and there are several questions we wanted to talk about and hopefully get some solutions, answers, assessment as we look at what's happening in Trinidad and Tobago currently. But first question, Marsha, how would you assess the political climate in Trinidad and Tobago as we speak?
I think it's at an all-time low. The voter turnout tells it. Let me pull up some statistics to make sure that I quote it correctly. You're looking at, some years that I pulled out would have been, 1986, 1995, and then 2010, years where, persons would have been absolutely fed up with the PNM. It's sort of like the more things change, nothing change. Because we have these periods of PNM, then people get fed up, they come out in their numbers and they vote them out, etc. So we've gone from this sort of 65, 63, 69, 60, even 66% in 2015, right? So we've always been around there. In 2020, we had 58%, so there was a decline. In the 2003 and 2010 local government elections, those were considered low years, low voter turnouts, even for local government election, even by local government election standards. And that was 38 and 38.7, 39%. Then in 2023, last year, we had 30%. So again, the lowest in history. Of course, you would have known that I campaigned in 2020. I campaigned. In fact, even though I was not a candidate in 2019, I was campaigning with the local government election candidates. With the, because I knew that I was going up in 2020, I would have been on the ground walking with the local government candidates in 2019. So I've been on the ground knocking each door, and we hear the same thing. They just don't believe that there's a viable option. They want change. So for them, it just doesn't make, in their mind, they feel that, why come out? Why waste my time?
Right, because I was about to ask you, if you get the sense that there's this disillusioned, electorate that people are seeing, especially in the local government elections. Historically, we've not had very high numbers.
Well, I think in terms of the historical numbers for local government, I do think that there is a miseducation. Ignorance is bliss. And I think that it may be intentional that you keep the population uneducated as it pertains to issues of politics. I also think that we've grown up in this culture where you don't talk religion, you don't talk politics. But if you don't talk about politics, then how are we really going to understand? So how do you, as a citizen, understand the importance of local government? How do you understand the difference between your MP and your councillor? The difference between the member of parliament and the corporation? How do you understand what happens inside of the Red House versus inside of a corporation office, a municipal, office? So these are things that we don't talk politics in school. There's no sort of political education where these things are fleshed out for young minds to really understand. So that historical voter turnout, I think it's just simply not understanding how local government can serve you. But apples for apples, grapes for grapes, mangoes for mangoes, we are seeing the voter turnout at local government election and general election. We're seeing that there is a decline. You're hearing from the younger persons, they are simply not interested. So you go into a PNM household and, the older ones, the granny might still be voting. The younger ones, you hear the fighting, the granny say, listen, if you don't come and vote, don't come back here tonight, But the younger ones saying, what PNM do for you? So you're not getting that same enthusiasm from the young ones. And dare I say it's happening on UNC side as well. The younger generation, they're not prepared to be blind supporters. We're not prepared to have this sort of tribal voting.
So that you're also seeing the need for greater levels of political and electoral education.
Absolutely. But again, you wonder whether or not it's purposely being done, right? We change different narratives. So, for example, I mean, it's no secret there is internal. I would like to say democracy is at play. That's what's happening inside of UNC. But then it's turned around as a narrative of, crab and barrel and being divisive, etc. When in truth and in fact, if we had the right narrative, if we sat and we explained to persons, one, let's look at the American style politics. How did this primary, this where they have the primary elections and these candidates come forward? So you have 3, 4, 5 different candidates saying, listen, I want to run as the presidential candidate for the Republican Party, for the Democratic Party, right? And they have to play this out in the public domain. Nobody calls it crab in a barrel. This is part and parcel of their process. When you do something like that, it brings the electorate in from an earlier stage.
Right.
Because, of course, now, what happens is that in 2025, the UNC will put forward a candidate for Prime Minister. The PNM will put forward a candidate for Prime Minister. And really and truly, nobody had any say. The electorate themselves were not part of the decision-making process to say, this is who we want, even before you bring somebody.
But we've heard, on the platform, this talk about one man, one woman vote, and this, this shift in which, to sort of modernize the process and give, citizens and voters an opportunity instead of having a system whereby, there's this disenfranchised, system. I've heard of that newness for which some people have been talking about. I think it was Winston Duguran who talked about the new politics, and the other people have been talking about a system. Even in the current official opposition, there is this claim as well that that there is one leader. And let me before I go a little further.
Right.
There's something very interesting that Senator Wademark said,
Okay.
and this had to do with the actual. Well, there's some little wranglings within as normal within the opposition. I just want us just to listen to what Senator Mark said, and this had to do with another MP. Of course, Russian Perret. We've been reading in terms of his views. So let's just get a little listen to what Wayne Mark said, and we come back and explore that a little further.
It is misguided for anyone to give the impression that our great and glorious party is veering away from those rich traditions. Elections in the UNC will be held when they are due. So don't bully the executive. Don't bully the party. It is mischievous to attempt that.
We're going to hear a little more from Senator Mark.
We have one united National Congress and we have one leader. Until the NATEX, which is the National Executive, takes a decision consistent with the Constitution to hold internal elections, there is one party. And yes, we have a one man, one woman, one vote system that allows over 100,000 members at the appropriate time to exercise their right of selecting a new executive. That time has not arrived.
Now, Senator Mark, Marsha has been one of those voices that you hear quite often. And, of course, he's talking about democracy. He's basically saying that, listen, there is democracy within the UNC, but I know that there has been some things that were been published in the public, it's in the public domain, that there are some issues for which some people are very concerned about. MP Paré, I had him here on last Wednesday, but we talked more about the business of the
General,
property tax
yes.
and in a general sense. But I didn't want to engage him at that moment, but I suppose we will have an opportunity to talk with him again. But there was a sense that, listen, we still holding fast to those democratic principles, even though it has been seen that we have not really been practicing the kind of party politics that we should be practicing.
Right. So, I have all the respect in the world for Senator Mark. He wrote the standing orders.
He talks about persons bullying the UNC's executive.
First of all, all right. I want to be very careful. So I don't want to take this fight into the mud. But at the end of the day, and I am happy, and you know what? I want the media, in their interviews, I've seen different media houses have exclusive interviews with the political leader, call her out. There is a constitution, the UNC's constitution is available for the public to see. So for Senator Mark and for any of those other MPs who have said that the current NATEX abides by the constitution, it is an outright lie. I cannot stand here in good conscience and say that in softer manner. And I can go through the constitution with you line by line by line. Women's arm. I'm going to use a women's arm. There were nominations put forward. We had to go. We had to pay a nomination fee. We had to collect nomination papers. We had to drive. I remember the women's arm, there was flooding and whatnot. We had to get to the head office and file our nomination papers. And at that time, it was already long overdue. Why haven't those elections been called? The youth arm election has not been called. That is overdue. Every single one of the 41 constituencies have an executive. Those executive elections, every single one of those 41 executive elections are overdue. The party's constitution calls for a Congress every 3 months. The last Congress, I believe, was last year, some time ago, maybe 6 or 9 months ago. Certainly, we've not had consistent Congress every 3 months. The annual assembly, the name implies it, once a year.
Yeah.
That is overdue. The Constitution speaks about subcommittees. So in the women's arm, each constituency, so you would have 41 women's arm representatives. They are supposed to meet. The Constitution speaks to how often they meet. Have they been meeting? The 41 youth arm representatives, have they been meeting? You can go through the Constitution line by line. This is not a subjective how I feel because I anti-Kamla. This is something you can go into the Constitution objectively.
It's black and white.
It's black and white. So for Wade Mark and for any other MP to stand and say that we have no just cause.
Is you saying that it's an untruth? To use parliamentary language.
Fine. well, you know what? Had he said that in Parliament, then I would bring him up before the Privileges Committee because he would be deliberately misleading Parliament.
Okay.
So if we want to use parliamentary language, he's deliberately misleading the public.
All right.
And for that, he should be disciplined.
So again, as I said, we have these moments within the politics, Marsha, tempers.
But these are the moments where we lose trust. These are the moments.
And that's one of the bases for the question that I asked. Is it serving people, or are we a better population? In terms of the kinds of the kind of system that we have, is it really serving the ordinary citizen? And you tend to get the impression that some.
Well, let's go into the history. I don't think. And again, unfortunately, the two persons that I'm going to speak about have passed on. So it's always difficult to speak about someone after they've passed on,
Yes.
right? But there was no provision, and in modern democracies, in fact, there is no provision for crossing the floor,
Right.
right? Hector McLean decided he wanted to cross the floor, and at the time, you also had the opposition leader at the time was Basdio Pandey. He had some internal fractions. So, Manning and Pandey come together and say, here's what. We're going to pass a bill. We're going to pass a law and amend the Constitution. So instead of taking the Constitution towards a modern democracy, it took us away from. So they placed something in the Constitution that stated, if you resign or are expelled from the party under which you were elected,
Certainly, yes.
because their argument is, well, you entered on a UNC card, you entered on a PNM card, and had you entered on your own card, you wouldn't win. So if you leave that card, then you must vacate your seat. The
Yes.
seat must be empty.
So it's
Now-
automatic expulsion.
Right.
Yeah.
So now the standing orders don't, whatever confusion happened, the standing orders never picked up on it, which was why when Vance,
Is it Vincent Lass?
yes,
Vincent Lass.
yes, and Rupert Griffith,
Rupert Griffith, yes.
right. When they crossed the floor, funny enough, Hector McLean was then the Speaker of the House. It was rejected.
Yes.
And then Manning tried to go to court. He pulled that whole issue, and so they were allowed to cross the floor. So you have now the Constitution and the standing orders,
Yes.
contradicting each other. We know, of course, Herbert Volney. It actually worked for him. Now, I would say that he probably, he had 14 days to mount an appeal and whatnot, and he did not for whatever reason and whatnot. But the bottom line is, what we're seeing is a moving away,
Okay.
right, from a democracy, because we have this Westminster system, and Gillian Lucky would have spoken about the Westminster system. She was against it. But even in other countries, I mean, the British Parliament does not, they allow for the crossing of the floor.
Yes.
In fact, Winston Churchill crossed the floor once and then crossed back
Yes.
after, right?
Yes.
So crossing of the floor, I believe, is very, very important. Now, there can be arguments. I mean, in fact, Kamala Persad-Bissessar herself is an example. When she went up under NAR for the same Superior seat,
Yes.
she lost so badly she couldn't even get back her deposit. Same human being, but under UNC, she has been able to keep that seat for 30 plus years. So there is a good argument
that's
that
precedent. Yeah,
right,
yes.
look, it's because of this party that you're representing and not because of the person. But at the end of the day, what you now have is you're basically making the electorate unimportant, because I voted for you, and now if Kamala Persad-Bissessar wakes up in the morning and expels Rushton Parry, and there's some kind of grounds, and we'll now have to fight up whether the Constitution takes precedence, whether the standing orders, will the Speaker, but the people of Mayaro would have elected him.
Yes. Yes.
So whose power, whose say, whose words? Is it the political leader or is it the citizens?
So there's a choice, there. We come back and continue with that discussion in just a moment. This is the Citizens Community Forum. I'm Stephen Cummings, and we are looking at the political climate in Trinidad and Tobago, being, as I heard someone said, laser focused. We are laser focused on what's happening, within the current environment. Of course, we know that general election must be held within the next 15 months as per law, as per our constitution. And I have with me in studio former Senator Marsha Walker. Of course, we are trying to go through some of these these important areas and questions, trying to analyze and get a sense as to where we are in Trinidad and Tobago at this time. Our numbers here is 622-1981, 628-1981. If you feel the need to connect with us, you have a question, a concern, a contribution to make, we'll be happy to take your calls. But we do advise that when you call, allow, grace to prevail in respect of our subject matter. And of course, we're here every Wednesday between the hour, from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. This is the Citizens Community Forum. What we'll do at the moment, we will take a short break, and when we come back, we will continue with our discussion.
Resurrection, Isaac 98. An unrestrained, joyous celebration worthy of the one who conquered death, hell, and the grave. The Lamb of God, risen Lord, King of Kings, and Lord of Lords. Stay tuned to Isaac 98, the #1 family station in the nation.
Sunday, March 31st, the Resurrection Experience is coming.
I did not know what they thought it was. They were telling me that 2023 Kingdom Principles was the hottest, but they did not know that Kingdom Principles in 2024 is going to be hotter than ever. You already know what it is, man. Where?
Kaboom!
This is JL.
Alongside your boy, DJ Ground Control Entertainment.
And Brother Devon.
Here for Kingdom Principles 2024. Check us out on same day, time and station.
Give them the details now.
Yes, check us out this and every Friday from 7 to 8 p.m. only on the Big Isaac 98.1 FM.
Call us or WhatsApp your contributions as we get into some Kingdom Principles.
It's sports at its best. Informative, engaging, and no-nonsense sports commentary. The Sports Rush on Isaac with Kern Clint Tyson.
The Sports Rush, now every Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday from 6 p.m. to 6:15.
A general election in Trinidad and Tobago must be called within the next 15 months, and the political campaigns have already begun. How do you assess the political climate in the country? Is the current system of party politics helping citizens? Join us this Wednesday on the Citizens Community Forum program when we explore several questions on the issue. Our topic: focus on and assessing the political climate in Trinidad and Tobago. We'll have a guest live in studio, former temporary opposition Senator Miss Marsha Walker. You can also call us at 622-1981 or 628-1981 to join the discussion. All this Wednesday on the Citizens Community Forum on Isaac 98.1 FM, The Promise. Welcome back to the Citizens Community Forum. I'm Stephen Cummings. This is another Wednesday in Trinidad and Tobago, and our topic: focus on and assessing the political climate in Trinidad and Tobago. We know that within the next 15 months we will, have a general election. Of course, the campaigns have already begun, and we have to get a sense. I suppose it's important, as citizens, that we get a sense as to where we are as a people, because governance, affects us all. Whether we take notice of what's happening within the parliament or not, we are impacted as citizens because of policies that are, formulated. Obviously, supposed to be in the public's interest, the citizens' interest. I think we would be a better, population, a better citizen for being fully educated. And there are a couple of questions, we wanted to look at this evening as we discuss this very important matter. What are the current, or how should I say, how do historical facts, such as colonialism and post-independence politics, influence the present-day political landscape in Trinidad and Tobago? And we talk so much about the Westminster system. And are we truly, practicing Westminster, Marsha?
Well, I just said that let's just use crossing of the floor. That does not exist in the British Parliament.
All right, hold just one
Sure.
moment. We may have a call on the line. Let's see who's on the telephone. A caller, good evening to you. Welcome to the program. Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Yes, good evening. Welcome. Can you turn the volume down? We're getting some echo back here in the studio. My headphones. Can you just turn the volume down a bit so that you can hear us?
I've been hearing the Prime Minister saying something, and I really can't understand what he really saying, and I know if all could explain it to me, because what I really understand, in my personal view, that this man give me a choice, life or death. That's why he give me a choice, life or death, according to my spiritual belief. Because this man talking about interfering people account in the bank. But it's better you shoot me, boy, than you interpret my account.
Okay, caller, thank you for connecting with us. Marsha, we were talking about the Westminster system and, of course, whether we really hold true to that system of governance, as it were.
Okay, so there are two things. Talking about crossing the floor. The older countries, the countries that have followed the Westminster system longer, of course you have the British Parliament, right? Home of the Westminster system. They recognize crossing the floor. It is a practice that is allowed, and I think that it's very, very important. In fact, when I campaigned, even before I got myself into frontline politics, when I voted, I remember reaching out to candidates that I liked. And the first question that I asked, how do you intend to handle towing the party line? Again, educating, because I believe in political education. So persons say, you're not there to serve the party, you're there to serve the people. And I appreciate that. So we talk about apps and, okay, so if we are going to, this is ideally how it should work. You're going to debate a bill.
Yes.
That bill I should bring before my constituents, and my constituents should give me the input. They are the ones that should build my debate inside of Parliament. I'm not going there because I am representing them.
Yes.
Exactly. Now, of course, I have to represent myself, so I'm not going to speak something that, will go totally against my moral, my religious beliefs. But by and large, that is ideally how it's supposed to work. So let's say, for example, the bail amendment bill. My constituents want me to vote yes. When I get to Parliament, the chief whip says we voted no. According to the Westminster system, I have to vote no. Okay. I have to follow my chief whip.
Hold just one moment again. Let's see who's on the telephone. Caller, good evening to you. Welcome.
Good night to my brethren and good night to the mess there.
Good evening to you.
Good evening.
Yes.
My little 2 cents. I have no such education, but I say people say, General is a real place, brother. I just try to understand. I have a guardian here before me, and it says, Kamala's Dong law tells Parrot a two-party line of first expulsion. Accuses him of being PNM and says he shouldn't have. And why I say that, brother? Both of you all have given all some answers. But what is a cult? Because what Parrot done, is it right? Is the same thing, the both party, PNM, the girl from Arima and the boy from Diego Martin, ask you, is it not the right thing to have an election? What have we done to deserve this? Is it a cultish attribute that has come out from because this is Manning, listen carefully, I understand, did not rowdy come in and pressure the man and pressure until because his ambition to be leader. The girl from Arima and Amy Brown are opposed. I mean, what is a cultish behavior? The both parties, when this is Pandey was there, what Kamala did, you all remember what she did? It's time for him to go. I mean, he's so and he do this and this. I mean, come on, man. Where people going with these things, as the lady saying there, where are we going with that? That is cultish behavior, but a person free to express. You could disagree and not become this. And here the sad part, all the others, some others, that cult, they're coming down on Parry. Parry did nothing wrong. If he asking for election, it is the right thing. And if he desires to be the leader, it is all because Kamala is the leader and she pressure upon the same thing Rowdy did. But this is a lockdown. That is cultish behavior. I don't know if you have anything to say.
All right, caller. Thank you for connecting with us inside the Citizens Community Forum.
So let me respond now. So they tore the party line. I just want to make sure to clear that up. Towing the party line does not mean something outside of Parliament. So he cannot be expelled for coming publicly and saying, call NATEX elections are due.
Right.
So that is right. So what she's so she's specifically saying, and which is the example that I was speaking to. If you and Rushton Parry, Anita Edwards, Rai Ragbeer, I know somebody else I can't remember, but whatever. So those MPs, none of them have not told the party line. Now, there was the incident when 3 MPs from the opposition that are unknown would not have voted along the party lines when we were with the president.
Yes, I remember that.
But the whip was removed, which is why we don't know who it is. Well, not which is why, because those are two different things. Because you can remove the whip, and people vote and they vote out loud, but there is no. They don't have to stay within the party line. So that towing the party line is what I speak to, that's the Westminster system. So we need to decide what was the history of it? Does that still serve us? Because, again, if I, as a representative for Diego Martin, go to my constituents and my constituents want me to vote no, but my chief whip says to me I have to vote yes, I can face legitimate expulsion for not abiding by the whip. And that's just how Parliament works. And the country needs to understand that. So, those on one side have said that Parry was premature for calling for a NATEX. I think Kamala was premature for speaking about expulsion and towing the party line. Because in the 2 terms that Rushton Parry has been an MP, we've not seen him go against the chief whip. So there's nothing to indicate that he intends to go against the chief whip. In fact, what he's asking for is for us to be disciplined and uphold all the various arms of the Constitution.
Right. And that's one of the questions I wanted to ask. Are there grounds for expulsion?
Absolutely
based
not.
On what,
Absolutely
been
not.
In the press.
No grounds.
That there is apparently some threat, to have him.
No grounds. And now, the political leader is very smart. So she was careful to say if he starts to go against the party in Parliament, because that's the only way. Again, though, if she expels him, we now have a situation where there is precedence in Rupert Griffith, in Vincent Lance, where they crossed the floor, and the Speaker of the House at the time allowed it. Do we believe Bridget Annaseth George will stop any UNC MP from crossing the floor? I don't believe, first of all, though, that they will cross the floor. I have said before, if ever I cross the floor, I'm going to be an independent. I'm going to be the first independent MP. Because there's nothing to say that you have to cross from UNC to PNM. You can sit in the middle and say, look, I'm an independent, and I will purely represent. I will purely represent. Yes, we've seen it in Tobago. We've seen it in Tobago. Now, I actually have a note here that this is where citizens, again, we are the ones that drive the way that politics works. Right? We'll go back to Kamala Persad-Bissessa in Siparia, where same person run on a NAR ticket, lost badly. The very next election, run on a UNC ticket, wins. So how are the citizens running? How are the citizens voting there? Right? We've had several fantastic independent candidates. They don't win. Nobody gives an independent a chance. So
Yes,
we
I've
are
heard
the ones.
Yes, I've heard it said that independents have not really featured in any significant way, into the politics.
No.
And maybe there's the time has come
to explore that option.
Explore that option as well.
But this is where citizens have to explore it. If time and time and time and time again, because it's not easy, it's not cheap to run an election, to have an election campaign.
Yes,
it's not cheap.
We've seen so many parties that have come up over the years, and you wonder, where are they now?
Because it's not cheap. It's not cheap.
It's a tough business.
Politics on the whole, exactly, right? So, I mean, the speaker spoke about cult behavior and the listen, if you can't take the heat, you got to get out of the kitchen. Politics is not for definitely not. So, I mean, apart from the fact that it's financially not cheap, it's emotionally draining. Which is why I do not understand those persons who serve 30, 40, 50 years,
Yes,
you
it's
cannot,
a special kind of individual.
Or they stop serving. Yes. And that's what we're seeing.
Yes, you become complacent, you become just...
You have no more energy to keep doing it. Honestly, Mia Motley had said she didn't plan to do this for a long time. And I think that is something that we should all commit to. You give it your all, and then you bow out.
I think one of the recommendations has been...
term limits.
We have these term limits and even referendums, within a particular period, so that we can keep that energy. Because you must be able to be up to the task.
Politics is not easy. It's not easy. Yeah. There is no way. And of course that I believe in family structure. Anybody inside of politics can't be, they can't give to their family the way that they should, right? So you cannot do this this cannot be a lifelong career. Okay. You get in, you serve hard, you serve well, and you get out.
And you move on.
Yeah, and pass the baton on. This is a relay.
Community Forum, Stephen Cummings, of course. We are discussing, looking at the political climate in Trinidad and Tobago. Of course, we know what's going to be, or what should be, what ought to be, happening within the next 15 months in Trinidad and Tobago as per the general election. I have with me in studio live Miss Marsha Walker, and just giving her perspective on where we are. The Citizens Community Forum, we invite, views, comments, perspectives. Of course, those comments, perspectives are usually those of the individual speakers. We do have, we do make, these provisions where persons can express their views on the subject matter at hand. I think we may have a call on the line. Let's see who's on the telephone. Caller, good evening to you. Welcome to the program. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, good evening to you. Can you turn...
one thing I would like the politician and them to do, and take into consideration that we have a God. And all the politicians are evidence. All the politicians does lie. Even from the...
Okay, we have a very lively audience.
It speaks
as we normally do.
It speaks to the lack of trust.
Yes.
Unfortunately, it speaks to the lack of trust. But again, the citizens are the ones that drive it. If you do not trust, why do we have some politicians, several politicians currently on both sides who've been there for decades. So if you do not like the brand of politician that you have, vote them out.
But there's also
and then of course, I say step in.
Yes, there's also saying that there is this this hunger by some people to hold on regardless of what they the future. We have another call on the line. Let's see who's on the telephone. Caller, good evening to you. Welcome to the program. Hello? Caller? Hello?
Hello?
Yes, caller.
Good evening, Mr. Cummings. Peace, love, and justice to you. And greetings to Miss Walker.
Yes.
Hello.
As we talk about the Constitution, I just really want to raise a point. Probably can't discuss it now. And that is, in terms of the approach they seem to be having, putting an item in the papers to look at that and say what you have to say. I think we probably need, we in Trinidad, to discuss the whole approach that they are taking obviously, that approach can't be for ordinary man in the street, plebeians like myself. That is directed to probably just the elites in our society. I think we need to look at that first. But before I go, I just want to raise a point because we only have a few minutes.
Yes,
again.
please do. Yes.
And that is that I see days are running out, and we have 2 days before it is the anniversary of the death of Eric Eustace Williams. And I've not seen any mention, not even by the stalwarts like Robinson Regis and the Heliconia group and so on, mentioning anything about Williams. And it's 2 days, the 29th is the anniversary, 43rd anniversary of his death. And I think this is important. There's a little dig. And in terms of looking at what we were saying, thanks, Ms. Walker. I think you're right on a lot of points, but I think too we need to clear up and tease out some of the things like the culture we have in Trinidad. And as I mentioned, Williams, remember he's the man who said, if he puts up a crapple, people will vote for it. Thank you very much, sir.
All right, thank you, caller, for connecting with us. This is the Citizens Community Forum. I see we have just about 6 minutes again.
He said that so many years ago, and we've accepted it. And we've accepted it. So once again, you hear me say that every single time I'm on the show. We, the citizens, have to take back the politics. No one's going to give it to us. No one is going to say, hey, I'm going to give up the blue lights and hey, you be empowered. It doesn't serve them. And if you are reading the Bible, you know that man's heart is inherently evil. So to expect politicians to be good, well, you're not reading your Bible.
and not just not reading, but not understanding.
Clearly not. So we have to, and I dare I say the Christian community has to step forward.
All right, we're almost at the end of the program, but let's see if we could just squeeze another caller. And caller, good evening to you. Welcome. Hello.
Good night.
Yes, caller, we have just a few minutes again. Can you just talk to us, and can you do that in 30 seconds?
Politicians they want the ordinary man on the street to believe that their enemy should also be my enemy.
Yes, divide and conquer.
All right. Thank you, caller, for connecting with us.
And they create enemies where they create hate where there is none. They do.
All right. Marsha, we are almost out of time, on the Citizens Community Forum for this evening. But in the few moments that we have, on this business of, understanding where we are as a citizen, I know you expressed the view that you talked about, we need to take back, that kind of, that power for which we do have, which we seem to have given to other persons and the policymakers and what have you. But as we wrap up, just give us a sense of where you believe, we are at the moment again, and where you think we should be going as a people and as a citizen, as we focus on this subject matter this evening.
I think this current generation will not accept blind loyalty. We will not accept tell me something that makes no sense. We are in the information age. There is nothing that we cannot simply Google and find information about. So the not a damn dog bark can no longer hold. We have to. The world, you're seeing younger, you're seeing fresh leadership. The world is changing and we cannot be left behind. But citizens have to be the one to drive that change.
Drive that change.
Yes.
I have heard it said that if you want change to come, you have to be that change.
Absolutely. Be the change that you want.
Yes, indeed. This is the Citizens Community Forum. I'm Stephen Cummings, and we have to put a cap on the program for this evening. We want to thank, again, Marsha Walker for coming in and chatting with us. Marsha, thank you so much again.
Thank you for having me. Thank you very much for keeping the conversation alive.
Yes, we always try to do that as much as possible. But it is said that in John 16:33, the Lord reassures his disciples that despite facing challenges in the world, they can find peace in him. He acknowledges, the reality of trouble, but encourages them to take heart because he has overcome the world through his victory over trouble and even death, providing hope and triumph over life's difficulties.
Absolutely.
As we close, let's keep the conversation alive, as we've said.
After all of that, we do have peace and hope.
Yes, it's one of the sure ways that we can shape a brighter tomorrow. We will be back on next Wednesday, and Marsha.
Well, maybe I should invite you guys to our Friday service at 5 p.m. at Reformed Evangelical in Tunapuna. That is at 5 p.m. And then on Sunday at 10 a.m.
All right, I'm sure.
For our Easter services.
Yes, so I'm sure lots of people would have heard you. We have to put a wrap on the program. Marsha, thank you so much again.
Thanks again.